everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and today we're going to be talking about all the books I plan to read in October. I'm so excited. It is October, it is spooky season, it is finally here. This is my favorite month of the year for just life and doing things and the weather and reading, and everything about October is the absolute best. I have so many reading plans for the month of October. I really hope I can get to all of them, but I also know there's just gonna be a lot going on, but we're gonna do the best that we can. But before we jump on into all of the books, I do want to take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Book of the Month. I am so excited to be partnering with Book of the Month. If you're a book lover and you don't know about Book of the Month, I'm so excited to introduce it to you. If you are familiar with Book of the Month and you haven't signed up yet, today I might convince you to. Book of the Month is a popular and fast growing book subscription service that offers selections for the best books of the month each month. How it works is you sign up for a subscription. Book of the Month looks every month at all of the releases that are coming out that month, and they look for new and emerging authors across different genres to present 5 to 7 books of the month, and then you pick which book you want to be your book of the month. You can also get up to 2 add-ons, which is so much fun, and I have used up both of those add-on options so many times with my book of the month. The service is also risk-free, meaning if you decide that you're not interested in any of the selections, you can just skip that month with no harm. You're probably not going to want to skip though, because they usually have so many different options across different genres. They usually have a thriller, a contemporary fiction, a romance, you name it. They usually have all different kinds of mixes of books in there, and it's really awesome that a couple of months ago they started doing up to 7 selections, because it used to just be 5 for a long time, but now there are 7 sometimes, and October is one of those months. This was a great month for book selection, so it was hard to pick, but the 2 that I ended up choosing were Sign Here by Claudia Lux and The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year, so I was so excited to see that Book of the Month was choosing this thriller book this month. I've talked about this book probably 2 or 3 times now in my different TBR and most anticipated videos, but it is supposed to be this thriller that is about this woman who is entering this family, and they all seem welcoming, everything seems fine until her partner's father gives her this tape that has this confession on it, and then the games have begun. I don't know what that means, but I am very excited to find out. And then Sign Here is a debut novel. It is a horror comedy that is about a man who literally works in hell, and he is up for a promotion if he can get this one other person to end up in hell. So I'm so excited for both of these books, and they are definitely both going to be on my October TBR. Book of the Month is now also going to be available in Canada. They're going to start shipping to Canada later this month. So they are expanding even further, and that is super exciting. Also, this is some of the best prices you're gonna find on new hardcover books. If you're shopping online or in stores for new hardcovers, those are gonna be upwards of like $30, sometimes even more. But with Book of the Month, and if you use my code TREAT this month, you can get your first book for $9.99. That is such a good deal, you can't deny it. And I hope that you check it out if you haven't checked out Book of the Month already. So I will have a link in my description box down below. Don't forget that code is TREAT, capital T-R-E-A-T, and you can get your first book for $9.99. And thank you again so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get into the rest of the books. First things first, let's talk about read-a-thons. There are so many read-a-thons going on in October. There's also one going on that is being hosted by me, and it is the 24-Hour Horror-A-Thon. This will be the 2nd edition of the 24-Hour Horror-A-Thon, and in October it's going to be going on October 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern to October 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I really hope you'll join me for this. It's just a quick little 24-hour horror-a-thon. It was so much fun the last time that we did it, and I'm excited to this time be joined by a co-host. We're going to have Kat from Kat Chats joining us as our co-host, so I'm super excited to hang out with her on sprints and have her chatting with everyone in the Discord. Kat is a fellow horror lover. She creates such great content on YouTube. She's on Instagram, she's on TikTok, so I will have all of her socials linked below. If you have not checked her out yet, definitely make sure to check her out because she's the best. And for this round, our buddy read is going to be Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney. I'll be honest, I don't really know much about what this book is about, but it seemed like the perfect selection for October. It was between this and 3 other books that we did voting for that were all October or Halloween-y, and this was our winner. So this is the one that we're going to be reading. It is a brief little novella. I believe it actually might be a collection of stories. and it is set in this town called Autumn Crow Valley, where every night is Halloween. So I'm excited to read this with everyone. I'm so excited to do the 24-hour horror-a-thon again. I'll also have the Discord and the Instagram for the read-a-thon linked down below, so you can join, chat, hang out. If you haven't heard about this before and it's your first time, it's just a 24-hour read-a-thon. We read horror books. We'll have live reading sprints. We might have a movie/TV show watch this time. Still kind of figuring that out. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the Discord for potential voting on that. But yeah, really excited for this in October. And then a read-a-thon that I will be participating in October is Blackoweenathon, which is hosted by Bree from Lockbooktition. I'll have her channel linked down below so you can go check that out, as well as all the other co-hosts. There are a lot of co-hosts for this read-a-thon, so make sure you check them all out because they're doing so many reading sprints for this read-a-thon. There's going to be reading sprints going on like all the time, so make sure you're following everyone so you can see when the sprints are coming up. Blackoweenathon is a yearly read-a-thon that is all about reading creepy, spooky, horror, mystery, thriller, crime, all of the good spooky season books that are written by Black authors. And it's going on all throughout the month of October, so I have quite the TBR lined up. I'm just planning on reading them throughout the month as I have other things going on as well. The first book I have is When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. I've actually already read this one because we're a couple days in the month, but I won't tell you how I feel about it because I'll wait until we get to my wrap up at the end of the month. But this is a story that is set in North Carolina, which is where I'm from, and you're following a woman who is returning to this area for her friend's wedding that she is having on a plantation, something that is very common in North Carolina. And while she is there, she is haunted by her own history, but also the history of what has gone on at this plantation. Next up, I have The Between by Tananarive Due. I don't know a ton about this, but I've really been wanting to read from this author, and the one I see talked about the most is The Good House, but that one is longer, and so it's a little bit more intimidating to me, so I was starting with a shorter one, and I love this cover. It really intrigued me. It says, "When Hilton was a boy, his grandmother sacrificed her life to save him from drowning. 30 years later, he begins to suspect that he was never meant to survive that accident and that dark forces are working to rectify that mistake. When Hilton's wife, the only elected African-American judge in Dade County, Florida," I did not know this was set in Florida. That is where I live. That is interesting. "Begins to receive racist hate mail from a man she once prosecuted, Hilton becomes obsessed with protecting his family. The demons lurking outside are matched by his internal terrors, macabre nightmares more intense and disturbing than any he has ever experienced. Are these bizarre dreams the dark imaginings of a man losing his hold on sanity, or are they harbingers of terrible events to come?" Next up, we have the book I'm currently reading, which is Ace of Spades. I have heard so many good things about this book. It is a YA thriller that is set at this academy where these two kids, who are the only Black kids in their school, are being targeted with a lot of blackmailing, and they don't know who is doing it or why. It is said to be Gossip Girl meets Get Out, and in the beginning, it starts with blurbs from both Gossip Girl and Get Out, which I thought was really cool, and I'm really enjoying this one so far, so I'm excited to keep reading this one this month. And then I have Lakewood by Megan Giddings. I'm really excited for this one because I just read a book from Megan Giddings last month. I read her newest release, The Women Could Fly, and I loved that book. It was so good. I do think this is going to be very different because I think this is more of a horror book. The Women Could Fly was horror in a way, but it was more dystopian in its horror. I think this one is going to be more like spooky horror, but I'm not totally sure. Interesting. I ended up buying this off of Pango Books, and the person left a note in here to their mother. So I guess they got this book for their mom, and then their mom sold it on Pango Books. And it says that she picked this book for her mom because it's a mystery thriller horror that's said to be weird and disturbing while also tackling social issues like sexism and racism. They also ended up getting her beef jerky apparently as part of the snack. This was a 2021 gift. Interesting. I've heard this one has to do with medical experimentation and that it is a social horror. I know it did not get the best reviews when it came out, but I really enjoyed her latest release so much that I'm excited to read this one, and I feel like I'm probably going to enjoy it based off of enjoying her latest book. So these are the physical books that I have. I also realized I forgot to tell you the prompts and how these match, but the way that I'm connecting the prompts is When the Reckoning Comes is a book that is set in the South. The Between is a book by an underrated author and a book published in the 20th century and a backlist book that has been published for 10 plus years, so I'm tripling up on this one. Ace of Spades is a book with queer rep. And then Lakewood, I'm counting as a book that has been released recently, but also if I have time in the month and if I can get a hold of the audiobooks, I also am really interested in reading The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson, which is a recent release that is a retelling of Carrie. That would be really fun to read. And then I'm also interested in House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson, who is an author that I have read from before, and I'm interested in checking out another book from her. That is a story that is about this woman who goes to work as a sort of blood maid, I think, at this house, and it is queer. There are vampires. That is what I remember of it. I'm just excited for it. So if I have time, I will be squeezing those in as well. Next up, I'll quickly talk about a couple of arcs that I have on my radar to read this month. If you just watched my September wrap up, I talked a little bit about how I'm sort of phasing out of using NetGalley as much because arcs are just causing me a lot of pressure recently, and I would really prefer to read the physical books on my TBR instead of the ebooks, but I've got to get through this last batch of them because we can't let the feedback ratio suffer. But the first one I have on my radar is All I Want for Christmas by Maggie Knox. This is the author duo who wrote the Holiday Swap last Christmas. I really enjoyed it. This is a Christmas romance book that comes out in the beginning of October, so hopefully I can get to this one very soon. Next we have A Sliver of Darkness by CJ Tudor. This is a collection of short stories from an author that I discovered this year and really enjoy. This one comes out on November 8th, so I've got the whole month. Hopefully I can get to it. And then we have Five Survive by Holly Jackson, which comes out on November 29th. I have not yet read from Holly Jackson. I do have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on my shelves, and I've had it there for years, but something in me just can't pick it up. I don't know if it's the hype, I don't know if it's the fact that it's a series, but I figured I would just try this new book from Holly Jackson, see if I enjoy it, and maybe that'll get me more excited to finally read the book that everyone has hyped up for years. I do have a very exciting reading vlog planned in October that I am so excited about. I don't want to tell you all the books that I'm going to be reading in that vlog yet because I do want to make it be a little secret surprise, but I will tell you one of the books that I'm reading, and that is Pen Pal. This is a horror book that I've heard about for a long time. A lot of people really love this one. They say it's really scary, and I'm very excited to read it, and I'm just very excited for the whole vlog that I have planned, which could be anywhere between like 3 to 5 books that I will be fitting into that vlog, depending on timing and interest and just how it goes. But if you want to leave a guess for what you think the theme of that vlog is based off this book, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I'll be very excited to see if you are correct. Next up, I have a couple classic horror books I would love to get to in October. First, I have to read Frankenstein in October. I have said this for years. I said this year, if I did not read Frankenstein in October, you're all allowed to unsubscribe from my channel. I will be reading this in October. I also have Carmilla, which is by Joseph Sheridan LaFanu, and this is edited by Carmen Maria Machado, and I just really want to read this because it is what inspired Dracula, and I really enjoyed Dracula, so I'm excited for this one. I just let classics sit around so long because I get intimidated about them for some reason, but I do have an audiobook of this one, so maybe that'll help. And then I also have The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is just a very popular story that I'm pretty sure I probably read at one point in my life, but do not remember, so want to read it to actually be able to remember the story. And I'm thinking that these two, Carmilla and The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I'm probably going to lump into my 24-hour horror-thon and see if I can read them during that. And then Frankenstein, I think I'm going to try to do a dedicated reading vlog for because I think that would just be fun to look back on. So that's the plans. This is definitely happening. Hopefully these two happen. And then everything else I have to tell you is just random reading plans that I have. So I actually already read this too, but Spy Family Volume 3. I want to see if I can read a couple more volumes this month. I did just read this one yesterday, but I will reserve my rating until my wrap up at the end of the month. But I would really like to see if I could read volumes 4 and 5 this month because I did go ahead and purchase those, and then I only have a couple more to get caught up, which would be really fun. I would really like to read The World of Pawnside by Mary Helen Stefanik this month. I bought this a long time ago. I have this tracker spreadsheet that I started this year where I track the books that I bought, how much I paid for them, and if I've read them or not, and the date that I purchased them, so I can see what has been on my TBR the longest that I haven't checked off as reading yet. And this is the oldest book from this year that I have bought and not read yet, so it's just like nagging me. I really need to read it because if I just read this, then it pushes down things to be like the next closest date is in August or something, and that makes me feel better that I'm getting through books more quickly. This is a story about this virtual reality game, I think a senior living facility. I'm not really sure, I don't fully remember, but it looks really interesting and I want to give it a try. And then I finally bought Hidden Pictures by Jason Reculak. I've been putting this off for so many months now. I had to let the hype die down a bit before I went into it, or I knew I was going to be anticipating too much from this one, but a lot of people really enjoyed this one this year. All I know about it is that it's about this person who has this kid who's drawing creepy pictures, and that you get to see the creepy pictures in the book, which is the reason why I wanted the physical copy instead of just an audiobook experience. So would really like to get to this one in October because something about it just feels like it's going to be a good summer book to me. I feel like it's just the cover because it kind of looks like camping, but I probably that doesn't matter at all and I could read it at any time of the year, but I've just convinced myself I need to read it before it is fully fall. And I mean, I live in Florida, so it's really not fall here yet, even though it is in my heart. So if I can get through this one this month, that would be great. So that is it for all of the books that I plan to read in October. I'm so excited for all these books. I just feel like I've got some new favorites in this pile. I can't wait to just cozy up and read them with just all of the fall vibes. Let me know down in the comments below which of these books you are most excited to hear me talk about, and let me know what book you are most excited to read in October. And while you're down there, don't forget to check out the description box and that link for a book of the month and using code TREAT to get your first book for $9.99. Thank you again so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.